Alright, friends, here we go. Hoot. I believe we are at the very top of page 186. Remember, Roy is, or was, dealing with Dana and his smell. Now he's unfortunately talking about cigarettes, which we don't like and we don't condone. However, that is part of the book, so we will read it from there. He was making him swear on his father that, and so, your father's still alive, Roy pointed out. Well, then I swear on Natalie's grave. Now tell me where those gladiator golds are stashed. I ain't kidding. Who's Natalie? Roy asked. My mother's parakeet. That's the only dead person I know. Well, I guess that'll do. Based on what Roy had seen of the Matherson household, he had an uneasy feeling that poor Natalie hadn't expired of natural causes. So we cool? Dana asked. Yeah, said Roy. It was time to turn the big dummy loose. The sun had dropped into the Gulf and the streetlights were coming on. Roy said, there's an empty lot at the corner of Woodbury and East Oriole. Yeah? In one corner of the lot there's a construction trailer, and that's where the cigarettes are stashed. Sweet, a whole case, Dana said greedily. But how come you know about it? Because me and my friends hid him there. We swiped him off a truck on the Seminole Reservation. You? Yeah, me. It was fairly believable yarn, Roy thought. The Indian tribe sold tax-free tobacco products, and smokers came from miles away to stock up. Whereabouts inside the trailer? Dana demanded. You can't miss him, Roy said. You want me to show you? Dana snorted. No thanks, I'll find him. He placed 2 fingers in the center of Roy's chest and gave a stiff shove. Roy flopped back into the flower bed, his head coming to rest on the same soft indentation. Cannot speak. He waited a minute or so before getting up and brushing himself off. By then, Dana Matherson was long gone. Roy would have been disappointed if he wasn't. Curly made it through Friday night, though not without personal inconvenience. First thing Saturday morning, he drove to the hardware store and brought a sturdy new seat for the toilet in the trailer, plus a dozen jumbo rat traps. Then he stopped at Blockbuster. Gosh, Blockbuster, that's old. And got a movie in case the TV cable went out again. From there, he headed home, where his wife informed him that she would need the pickup truck since her mother was taking the other car to the bingo hall. Curly didn't like anyone else driving his pickup, so he was sulking when his wife dropped him off at the trailer. Before settling down in front of the television, Curly took out his gun and made a quick tour of the property. Nothing appeared to have been disturbed, including the survey stakes. He began to believe that his presence was indeed keeping intruders away from the construction site. Tonight would be the true test. Without the pickup truck parked near the trailer, the place would appear to be deserted and inviting. As he walked the fence line, Curly was pleased not to come across a single cottonmouth moccasin. Can't blame him. That meant he could save his 5 remaining bullets for some serious security threats, though he didn't want a repeat of the nerve-rattling fiasco with the field mouse, where he blew up the toilet. Determined to discourage uninvited rodents, Curly carefully baited the rat traps with peanut butter and placed them at strategic locations along the outside walls of the trailer. Around 5 o'clock, he nuked a frozen dinner and popped the movie into the VCR. The turkey pot pie wasn't half bad, and the cherry strudel turned out to be surprisingly tasty. Curly didn't leave a crumb. Unfortunately, the movie was a disappointment. It was called The Last House on Witch Boulevard 3. And one of the co-stars was none other than Kimberly Lou Dixon. A clerk at the Blockbuster had helped Curly find the film, which had been released several years earlier before Kimberly Lou Dixon signed for Mother Paula TV commercials. Curly guessed it was her very first Hollywood role after retiring from beauty pageants. In the movie, Kimberly Lou played a pretty college cheerleader who got hexed into a witch and started boiling the star football players in her basement cauldron. Her hair was dyed fiery red for the part, and she wore a fake nose with a rubber wart on the tip of it. The acting was pretty lame, and the special effects were cheesy, so Curly fast-forwarded to the end of the tape. In the final scene, the hunk of a college quarterback escaped from the cauldron and threw some sort of magic dust on Kimberly Lou Dixon, who turned from a witch back into a pretty cheerleader before collapsing in his arms. Then, as the quarterback was about to kiss her, she morphed into a dead iguana. Okay. Curly turned off the VCR in disgust. He decided that if he ever got to meet Kimberly Lee Dixon in person, he wouldn't mention the last house on Wish Boulevard 3. He switched to cable and found a golf tournament, which made him drowsy. First prize was $1,000,000 and a new Buick, but Curly still couldn't keep his eyes open. When he awoke, it was dark outside. A noise had startled him from his nap, but he wasn't sure what it was, and suddenly heard it again. Snap! Instantly a cry rang out. Possibly human, but Curly wasn't sure. He muted the TV and grabbed for his gun. Something, an arm, a fist, thumped against the aluminum side of the trailer, and then came another snap, punctuated by a muffled profanity. Curly crept to the door and waited. His heart was thumping so hard he was afraid the intruder might hear it. As soon as the doorknob began to jiggle, Curly went into action. He lowered his shoulder, let out a Marine-style roar, and crashed out of the trailer, snapping the door off the hinges. The intruder let out a cry as he hit the ground in a heap. Curly pinned him there with a heavy boot on his midsection. "Don't move." "I won't, I won't, I won't." Curly lowered the gun barrel. By the light of the trailer he could see that the burglar was just a kid, a large, lumpy kid. He had accidentally stumbled onto the rat traps, 2 of which were attached crookedly to his sneakers. "That has to hurt," Curly thought. Don't shoot me, the kid cried. "Oh, shut up." Curly stuck the .38 in his belt. "What's your name, son?" "Roy Eberhart." "Well, you're in deep doo-doo, Roy. Sorry, man. Please don't call the cops, okay?" The boy began to wiggle, so Curly pressed down harder with his boot. Looking across the lot, he noticed that the padlock on the gate had been broken with a heavy chunk of cinder block. "You must have thought you was pretty slick," he said, "sneaking in and out of here whenever you pleased. You and your silly sense of humor." The boy raised his head. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Roy. You're the one who yanked all the survey stakes and put them gators in the port of Johnny's." "What? You're crazy, man. And painted that cop car. No wonder you don't want me calling the police." Curly leaned closer. "What's your problem, boy? You got a gripe with Mother Paulus? To be honest, you look like a kid that enjoys a good pancake." "I do. I love pancakes." "Then what's the deal?" Curly said. "Why are you doing all this stuff?" "But I've never been here before." Curly removed his foot from the kid's belly. "Come on, kid, get up." The boy took his hand, but instead of letting Curly pull him to his feet, he yanked Curly to the ground. Curly managed to get one arm around the boy's neck, but he twisted free and hurled a handful of dirt in Curly's face. Just like in that stupid movie, Curly thought as he clawed his miserably... Redo. Just like in that stupid movie, Curly thought as he clawed miserably at his eyes, except I'm not turning into a cheerleader. He cleared the crud from his vision just in time to see the boy run off, the rat traps clattering like castanets on the boy's shoes. Curly attempted to give chase, but he made it only about 5 steps before tripping in an owl hole and falling flat. "I'll get you, Roy," he hollered into the darkness. "You're out of luck, mister." Officer David Delinko had Saturday off, which is fine. It had been a hectic week, culminating in that weird scene at the emergency room. The missing dog bite victim still had not been found or identified, though Officer Delinko now had a green shirt to match the torn sleeve he'd found on the fence of Mother Paul's construction site. The boy who'd fled from the hospital must have left the shirt on the antenna of Officer Delinko's squad car, obviously as some sort of a joke. Officer Delinko was tired of being the butt of such jokes, though he was grateful for the fresh clue. It suggested that the emergency room runaway was one of the Mother Paula's vandals, and that young Roy Eberhart knew more about that case than he was admitting. Officer Delinko figured that Roy's father would get to the bottom of that mystery, given his special background in interrogations. The policeman spent the afternoon watching baseball on television, but both Florida teams got creamed, with the Devil Rays lost by 5, the Marlins by 7. Around dinner time, he opened his refrigerator and discovered there was nothing to eat but 3 individually wrapped slices of Kraft processed cheese. Immediately, he embarked on a trip to the mini-mart for a frozen pizza. As was his new routine, Officer Delinko made a detour toward Mother Paula's property. He still hoped to catch the vandals, whoever they were, in the act. If that happened, the captain and the sergeant would have little choice but to take him off of desk duty and put him back on patrol again, with a glowing commendation for his file. He has kind of like delusions of grandeur, I do believe. Turning his squad car onto East Oriole, Officer Delinko wondered if the trained Rottweilers were guarding the Pancake House site tonight. In that event, it would be pointless for him to stop. Nobody would mess with those crazed dogs. In the distance, a bulky figure appeared in the middle of the road. It was advancing in an odd halting gait. Officer Delinko braked the Crown Victoria and peered wearily through the windshield. As the figure drew closer, Passing through the glow of the street lights, the policeman could see it was a husky teenage boy. The boy kept his head down and seemed to be in a hurry, though he wasn't running in a normal way. It was more of a wobbly lurch. Each step made a sharp clacking sound that echoed on the pavement. When the boy came into range of the squad car's headlights, Officer Delinko noticed a flat rectangular object was attached to each of his sneakers. Something very strange was going on. You think? The police officer flipped on the flashing blue lights and stepped out of the car. The surprised teenager halted and looked up. His pudgy chest was heaving and his face was slick with sweat. And we're going to stop there, because it should be interesting to see what happens to Roy, or Dana, aka Roy, tomorrow, when he has to explain what's going on to Officer Delinko, the super sleuth, Sherlock Holmes. We will pick up at the top of page 194. You all have